Hello everyone and welcome back to some more Warhammer Underworlds for the channel. Today the Sepulchral Guard, who I'll try and just call the Guard from now on because I can't really say that first word, are going up against Drepur's Wraithcreepers. So we're just going to jump straight in. We'll talk briefly about both sides just in case you're not familiar and then get things underway. So sit back and enjoy. So let's talk about the Guard first. The horde of skeletons led by the Warden at the front here with the billowing cape. We have the Harvester next to him, we have the Champion, we have the Prince of Dust, and then at the back we have the three common skeletons that are there basically just to get killed and resurrected. That's their purpose. The Inevitable Petitioner, the Rising Petitioner, and the Zealous Petitioner. The Rising one is the one coming out of the ground there, the Inevitable one is the one with the big sword, and the Zealous one is the one with the yellow shield. So hopefully that's separated them. Honestly, it's harder to tell the other warband apart, as we'll get to. And speaking of the horse ghosts, here they are, Drepur's Wraithcreepers, being led by Viceroy Drepur himself, which is him right here. Next to him we have the Patrician. He's the easiest to remember because he is beaten on a drum, so it's easy to tell him apart from the others. The two at the back, though, they're the ones who are always kind of confusing. Sir Hackfell is on the left here, and then Grodrig the Lance is over here on the right. He doesn't really have anything to script about him other than he's fully into the lunge with that huge stabbing spear. They love killing things, and the Sepulchral Guard love getting killed. So it's a match made in heaven, to be honest. I'm actually quite curious how this is going to work out because they both play into each other's strengths rather than weaknesses. So they both could end up scoring very, very highly. But we'll be back after a moment from our word from our sponsors, and we'll see how the setup looks. This video is sponsored by Noble Knight Games. Check out the video description below for an affiliate link that will take you through to their store, and it will help me out as well. Thanks. And just like that, both warbands are deployed. So we have the Sepulchral Guard here left. They will be taking first activation. They take up every potential starting slot on their side of the table because there's 7 of them. There is 7, right? Yes. And Drepur's Wraithcreepers are over here. Drepur's over here at the back there. This is the Patrician, Hackfell, and Godric. No, other way around. Godric and Hackfell. I think. It gets so confusing. They look so similar. Anyway, over here we have the Patricians all in a row, or in a line rather, up front. Then we have the Harvester, Prince of Dust, Champion, and the Warden at the back there. So with that, we're going to flip objectives and then get started. Down here we have objective number 1. Up here we have objective number 5. In No Man's Land we've got number 3, and then we have 2 and 4 over here. There we are. Hang on. That was 4. I misread that as 1. My bad. 2 and 1 over there. Now we're ready to get started. Well, to get the game started in round 1 for the Guard, it was a standard first action play. The Warden activated, but he didn't do anything. He used one of his 2 special actions. In this case, he can choose up to 2 other friendly fighters. They make 1 move action. And with that, the Prince of Dust moved there, and the Harvester moved there, claiming those back-end objectives and also surrounding themselves with friendlies. In the power phase, Worthless Chaff was played. It means the 3 petitioners who are on the front line are not worth any glory if they go down. It goes until the end of the round or until one of them is killed. So whichever happens first, we'll leave that on the side of the table there just to remember it's an effect. And we'll have to move the camera in editing, or in video rather, because over here Unending Pursuit was played in the power phase for the Wraithcreepers. Choose 1 friendly fighter, push that fighter 1 hex. Drepur himself has been pushed onto objective 1. I realise that went very blurry there at the end of that when I pulled the card away, so again, just to be clear, Drepur was there, he's moved forwards and he's there. And the first action for the Wraithcreepers was Godric the Lance doing a charge action. It's Grodric, sorry, I keep on saying Godric because of Elden Ring. Grodric did a charge action. He went on to objective 3 in No Man's Land and he attacked the Rising Petitioner. 2 dice needing hammers and he absolutely whiffed it, which cost them big in ways that will not be revealed currently. During the power phase, however, Enervating Beat was played, which you can do so as long as the Patrician is alive. Play this only in your power step, -1 damage from enemy fighters range 1 and range 2 attack actions in the next activation to a minimum of 1. So that's just in effect for this activation that's about to happen. They're just trying to give themselves a little bit of protection. Oh, but we actually have our first scored objective card at the end of that activation. Land of the Dead is scoring for 1 glory for the Sepulchral Guard. Score this immediately after an opponent's activation step if your warband holds 2 or more objectives and their total value is 6 or more. They're currently holding objectives 5 and 4, so they're at 9, so that is them on the board already. As it turns out, the enervating beat doesn't really seem to have done much because the warden activated for the second time in a row for the guard, and he did the exact same thing. He is forcing his skeletal hordes to move. So, specifically, the petitioner at the bottom here, which was the inevitable petitioner, has moved forward his mighty 2 hexes. They're very slow. And also up here, the zealous petitioner has moved forwards 2 and is there. He started down here. So they've both done their massive 2 hex movement, and that is it. In the power phase, that glory they just got is being spent to give the warden the ancient commander upgrade, which changes that action. It gives him a better version of it where he can pick up to 3 friendly fighters and make them do a move action. So Sir Hackfell activated for the Wraithcreepers next, and it's going to cost them, but he had a plan, and the plan involved him being inspired, and I forgot to mention at the top of this, but the Wraithcreepers inspire if when they activate there's at least 2 enemies within 2 hexes of them. Yeah, and because of him starting there and having only 1 within 2 hexes, he had 2 within 3, which is very annoying because if he'd inspired, what he just did still would have scored a glory, even though he's not going to get anything for the kill he ended up getting. But I guess we'll cover that now. He did a charge action to go over here, supported by Grodrick the Lance, attacking the Rising Petitioner. Got 2 successes, one of which was blocked, but that's not enough to stop the 2 damage getting through, and as a result he is removed, at least for now. That does not score any glory because of Worthless Chaff, which is now, that's procced, so it just goes away. So now they give glory, but can't score that objective card because he didn't inspire. Oh well. For the guard's third of 4 actions in the first round, we're having to come down this end of the table, but it was the warden who activated for a 3rd time in a row, and he made use of that ancient commander upgrade to force move actions out of 3 of his skeletons. So the Harvester did his 2nd move action of the round, coming forwards 2 hexes. The 2 petitioners over here also did the same thing, charging forwards 2 hexes. Oh, before we move on to the next activation for the Wraithcreepers, we're going to make use of the Patrician's special reaction called Deathbeat. After an opponent's power step, choose 1 friendly fighter and push them 1 hex towards the closest enemy. Drepur is moving over here. That means, since he's about to activate, that means when he does activate, he will be on his inspired side because he is activating within 2 hexes of 2 enemies. As I no doubt pointed out during editing, it is in fact only 1 enemy fighter that needs to be within 2 hexes to inspire one of the Wraithcreepers, not 2. Ergo, Hackfell was inspired when he did his charge in the previous activation to get that kill, which means he did in fact score a card, because on their inspired side his attacks have cleave, which means piercing blow was scored. So we're retroactively applying that now because the thing did happen. It's just I thought he wasn't inspired. He actually was. So score this immediately after an attack activation in which a friendly fighter's attack action with cleave was successful, and as I said, on his inspired side his basic and only attack gets cleave. So correct that now, probably pointed out as it happened in the edit, caught up with it now, they have 1 glory. So now on with the actual activation. Drepur activated, he didn't do a charge or anything, he just stayed where he was and took a swing at the Zealous Petitioner, managing to get a crit, which was entirely unblocked. 2 damage, that is the 2nd Petitioner out there, and this time he is worth 1 glory. And the final activation of the first round for the guard was for the warden to activate. He took every activation, and he made use of his other ability he can do, which is to bring back a dead skeleton. They're placed on a starting hex, such as where the Rising Petitioner has been placed here, and they get given a raise counter. They inspire once there's 2 inspired friendly fighters on the field, I think, or 2 raised ones, something like that. Either way, in the power phase they didn't play anything, but the Wraithcreepers did. They spent 1 of the glory they now have on Murder Pact, and are giving it to Drepur himself. It gives him +1 damage to his range 1, range 2 attack actions as long as he is supported by 1 or more friendly fighters, and +1 die to other friendly fighter attack actions if this fighter is supporting them. So he makes them roll more dice, and they make him do more damage. Very scary. And carrying on the trend of forgetting the Patrician's ability, Deathbeat was used again, and Drepur is being moved 1 hex towards another person he wants to stab. And the final activation for round 1, Drepur activated again. He has no charge tokens or anything, so that's perfectly acceptable. He only rolled 1 success on his 3 dice. He's not being supported, so nothing from that upgrade applies. But the inevitable petitioner whiffed his defense roll, 2 damage, he's a 2 health model. Boom, he is also out of there for 1 more glory, and that takes us to the end phase of the first round. So here's how things stand at the end of round 1 of 3. I need to clarify, the guard inspire when they get brought back with a raise token. The exception is the warden, who inspires when there's at least 2 inspired skeletons. So he inspires as they inspire. That's important because that means when the rising petitioner popped back up right there, he did come back and inspired because he was given a raise counter. That does mean in the end phase they're scoring the only card that's being scored in the end phase, which is Invigorated Dead, which we can see right here, hopefully in focus, if not now but soon. Score this in the end phase if the number of surviving inspired friendly fighters is equal to or greater than the round number, e.g. 2 in round 2. There's 1 at the end of round 1, so it has scored for 1 glory. And given that no other cards are being scored, it still means the Wraithcreepers are ahead by 1 thanks to taking out some easy petitioner kills. So 3 playing 2 as we go into round 2. The stage is set for round 2, and it is actually the Wraithcreepers who will be taking their first activation, so we'll just get right into it and see what happens. So it actually ended up being a very eventful first activation. It was Hackfell who did a charge action. He moves 4, so he went the long way round to go after the Prince of Dust so he wouldn't be supported by the champion, and they had absolutely ridiculous rolls on both sides. Hackfell rolled 2 crits on attack, and the Prince of Dust rolled a crit on defense. 2 crits trump 1 crit, however, so it did, that's hard to say, so he did 2 damage. Doesn't take him out though. The Prince of Dust has 3 health. Then, well actually before we do the power step, the Patrician is using his ability, so Hackfell moves 1 towards the closest enemy. That might be important later. But then we came to the busy power phase where glory was getting spent. Deathly Vigor is being played on Hackfell to give him +1 wound. That puts him at 4 health. Then it went over to the guard. They paid their 1 unspent glory on a familiar face and gave that to the rising petitioner. So now he is worth no... Well, sorry, he does give glory if he gets killed again, but it's spent glory, so it can't be spent on upgrades. Then the last unspent glory for the Wraithcreepers was spent on the Point of Death, and it's being given to Hackfell. It means that he can reroll 1 attack die when he does a charge action. Sorry, I think I just said this one was also being given to Hackfell. No, this one is getting given to Drepur. The other upgrade was given to Hackfell. Deathly Vigor was given to Hackfell. The Point of Death was given to Drepur. So what followed for the first activation for the guard was also pretty busy, even though it looks like it isn't, because none of them have moved, but you know how they are. The Warden activated and used his ability to bring a dead teammate back to life. He brought the Zealous Petitioner back, who has been put on this starting hex, given a raise counter, which in turn inspires him because he has that raise counter, which in turn inspires the Warden because at least 2 of his friendlies are inspired. So that's that done. And then in the power phase, Restless Dead was played right here. Choose, as it struggles to come into focus, choose a friendly fighter other than the Sepulchral Warden that's out of action. Place them on an empty starting hex in your territory. Give that fighter 1 raise counter and 1 charge token. So it's a less good version of his ability because it gives them a charge token. But if we just come down here a little bit, that means that the Inevitable Petitioner has also been brought back and also inspires because he has that raise counter. In turn, that scores Battle Without End. Right here. Score this immediately after an activation or power step, the latter in this case, in which you gave your second or subsequent fighter a raise counter in the same phase. So that is them up to 3. So much to remember. Drepur moves forwards again thanks to the Patrician's ability. So the second activation for the Wraithcreepers was Grodrick the Lance doing a charge action from where he was, coming down here to try and finish off the Prince of Dust. And if we've just moved to the left ever so slightly, we can see that he has succeeded. He got a crit, and despite doing a success, like the Prince of Dust has been going pretty hard on his defense rolls. Not enough to stand up to a crit this time though, so that did 2 damage. He had 1 health left, so he is out of there, and that is 1 glory to the Wraithcreepers, so that's him up to 4 now. Yet more movement shenanigans followed for the second activation for the guard, with the Warden activating and choosing 3 of his skeletal friends to do move actions. The Petitioner down here has moved on to objective 4. The Champion has moved to block them getting directly to the Warden by standing on objective 5, and the Harvester has walked behind Hackfell. It's not Hackfell, it's Drepur every time. They look so similar, to sit on objective 2. In the power phase, that unspent glory they had is being spent to give the Warden no vitals. It gives him -1 damage received from attack actions that target him to a minimum of 1 unless they have cleave or knockback. So if he's getting attacked by most of them on their inspired side, that's not going to make any difference because I think they all get cleave maybe. But if they're not on their inspired side, then this will give them a little bit of extra protection. Second last activation for the round for the Wraithcreepers was Drepur himself doing a charge action, ignoring the Harvester and going after the Rising Petitioner. Fantastic attack roll again, a crit and 2 successes. So it obviously got through and takes him out. Now, because of his upgrade, the Familiar Face, it means that he still does give glory, but it's spent glory, so can't be spent on upgrades or anything like that, but no other cards being scored or anything. The true machinations of the skeletons was revealed there as that activation ends. Undying Watchman, score for 2 for the guard. Score this immediately after your opponent's activation step if your warband holds 2 or more objectives and one of those is in enemy territory. They hold objective 5 with the Champion and objective 2 in enemy territory with the Harvester. So yeah, that's them now up to 5, which is actually a draw. It's still a draw. Second last activation for the second round was the Warden yet again, and he brought back the Prince of Dust, placed on a starting hex and given a raise counter, which in turn makes him inspire. So that is everyone except the Harvester and the Champion now are inspired. With the closing of that activation, the Patrician's ability is being used again to move Drepur 1 closer to the closest enemy. He does have a charge token, but it's a push, not a move, so he is still allowed to do it. And for the Wraithcreepers' actual last activation of the second round, it was a swing and a miss. The Patrician had to activate because everybody else had a charge token. He charged into the Harvester, hoping to take a swing, get him off the objective, because he only does 1 damage, so a kill was impossible. 3 dice, needing swords, so he didn't roll a single success, so absolutely nothing there. And to take us to the end of the second round, I hope you're not sick of movement shenanigans, because that's exactly what happened yet again. The Warden activated and he used that Ancient Commander upgrade to pick 3 Skelemen to do move actions. The Zealous Petitioner moved up here, the Prince of Dust moved on to objective 3 in No Man's Land, and the Inevitable Petitioner just moved over here next to the Harvester. Yes, he had a charge token, but he can still move and be given a move token in this manner. So that takes us to the end phase, and I think the Guard are going to score good. Well, no matter how many times you kill those skeletons, they just keep coming back and also largely ignoring you and just moving on to objectives. In the end phase, the Guard are doing well. They are scoring Lay Claim to It All, which is worth 1 glory right here. Score this in the end phase if your warband holds more objectives than each other warband. They are holding 3 to the Wraithcreepers 1. But they're also scoring March of the Dead for 2 glory, so we scored a total of 3. Which is hopefully coming into focus. Score this in the end phase if 5 or more friendly fighters each have 1 or more charge or move tokens. Yes, they do. It's not all doom and gloom for the Wraithcreepers though. They're also scoring. They're scoring Deathly Blooms for just 1 glory right here. It's a simple score. Score this in the end phase if your warband holds 1 or more objectives in enemy territory. They hold exactly 1 with Drepur down here sitting on objective 4. So that takes them to 2, 4, 6. But the Guard is up to 8, so as we go into the final round, they are winning. As we start the third and final round, the Wraithcreepers have maintained their first activation, and I guess they're just going to try their hardest to murder as many resurrecting skeletons as they possibly can. So first activation for the Wraithcreepers was Grodrick, who finally got to inspire for starting within 2 of an enemy, and he did an attack action into the Champion, rolling 2 dice looking for hammers, but the single supports do count because he's currently being supported by Grodrick. So the defense roll, for some reason the Champion doesn't look for blocks, he looks for dodges, and Grodrick's inspired attack has ensnare, so he needed a crit and didn't get it. So that's 2 of his 3 health gone. More importantly, he is being driven back, right back there. Then in the, well actually let's handle this first. The Patrician is going to trigger, oh no sorry, it's in the opponent's power step. So first of all, Pile of Fear is being played. One of their unspent glory is being spent to give that to Grodrick, because he's going to be in a bit of danger from the Warden. So that is -1 die from enemy fighter, range 1, raise 2 attack actions to a minimum of 1. Just to give him that little bit of extra protection, because he might be getting smacked. So, I think that covered everything. If not, be back in a second. Well, we're going to need a pull back view here, because not deterred by the threat of violence near him, the Warden activated and once again used that Ancient Commander to shuffle around 3 skeletons. So, the Inevitable Petitioner has moved on to here. You might remember the Harvester was there, but he moved first up there. And finally, the Champion was moved back onto Objective 5 to the top left of your screen there to further block the Warden, or at least give him supports if someone decides to go try and get him. Although those no vitals, or that no vital upgrade, will be protecting him a little bit. A slight correction to the first activation for the Wraithcreepers. Well, not correction, it did happen, just forgot to mention it on camera that it scored. Masked Blade scored after Grodrick's attack. Super simple. Score this immediately after an activation of which a friendly fighter made an attack action with 1 or more supporting fighters. He did that. It doesn't change what happened. It did happen. It was shown. Just forgot to mention, hey, it actually scored something. So we're still up this end of the table. Second activation for the Wraithcreepers was Hackfell, who did a charge action, moving up here through those two. That's important. And unfortunately, he whiffed his attack at the far end of it. He wanted to stab the Warden to stop him moving everyone around, but that's not important. He still manages to score Ethereal Hunters for 1 glory. Score was immediately after an activation step in which a friendly fighter made a charge action in which they moved through 1 or more moved, blocked or occupied hexes. All the Wraithcreepers have a rule called Intangible that lets them walk through enemies and unblockable hexes, whatever you want to call them. What are they called? It's not unblockable hexes. Blocked hexes. The exact opposite of what I was saying. It's one of those days. So he did move through the Champion and the Warden, which means the criteria is met. So that takes them up to their 8. So it's a draw now, currently. Well, it's a mad dash for points as the Warden activated again. He's not scared by Hackfell trying to stab him in the back with that gigantic spear. He resurrected the Rising Petitioner for the second time, giving him his second raise counter and popping him up there for support, just in case it might be required. Meeting the criteria for They Keep Coming, scoring that for 1. Score this immediately after you give a friendly fighter a raise counter and 1 or more other friendly fighters have 1 or more raise counters. Well, the Prince of Dust has 1, the Inevitable Petitioner has 1, the Zealous Petitioner has 1, so yeah, a million ways to Sunday, they have met the criteria to score that card. Oh, an absolutely disastrous second last activation of the game for the Wraithcreepers. That could actually be the thing that costs them the game, to be honest. Grodrick activated, just did an attack action into the Champion, wanted to take him out and rolled a support and a double support, both of which mean nothing to him, and he didn't do a thing. And yeah, I think that's cost them the game right there. Needed to remove the Prince of Dust. Not the Prince of Dust, the Champion. Really needed to happen, and with that not happening, yeah, I think that's probably it. And the second last activation for the Sepulchral Guard was the Warden himself. Wait, don't go anywhere. He actually did something himself this time. He turned around and decided to smack Hackfell in the face. Rolling 2 successes, he rolls 2 dice looking for hammers, doing 3 damage on his inspired side. Hackfell was looking for dodges, he got none, so he took 3 damage, sorry, there should be a third one there, which would normally just outright kill him, but thankfully he was given that Deathly Vigor upgrade, so he actually has 1 health remaining and didn't go down. During the power phase though, and we're going to have to move slightly to show what it did, No End to Our Duty was played. Choose a friendly fighter with 1 or more move tokens, and they get to do a move action. The Harvester was moved, and he technically should have a second. There we go. And he was moved on to Objective 1. And the final activation of the game for the Wraithcreepers was Grodrick trying to repair that mistake he made last activation by finishing off the Prince of Dust. He succeeded this time. Great, that's 1 glory. But it's too little too late. He needed to take him out on that last activation before all this happened. So, yeah, that was 1 glory. That's their 9th. And it's probably not going to be enough. It makes them currently a draw. But it's spoilers, the end phase is not going to be kind to the Wraithcreepers in terms of what they can score, so as long as the guard can score anything, it's going to be over for them. And to add insult to further injury, the final activation for the guard, the final activation of the game, was the Warden activating again. I'm pretty sure. Oh, wait, did he activate every single time in every single round? I think he might have. Also, apologies if you can hear some buzz sawing in the background. That's a perfectly normal thing to do on Easter Sunday. Anyway, the Warden decided to take out Hackfell, rolled a crit and a success. Hackfell once again managed to not roll a single success on his defense roll, so no amount of clapping will bring him back from that. And that is him dead for their 10th glory, taking us to the final end phase. So as we get into the final end phase, it's basically over because the Wraithcreepers cannot score any of their cards. If they'd managed to plant someone on that, they would have scored 2 points. 2 points for Scythe Down, I think. For Death's Triumph. It's worth 2. Scythe Down would have required the dead to stay dead. They would have scored that a long time ago if the skeletons stayed dead, in fact. But such as it is, they have 9 glory to the 10 that the guard already have, but I believe they're also scoring points. Let's see. Yeah, retake what is ours for a massive 3. That about covers it, doesn't it? Score this in the end phase if your warband holds 3 or more objectives and 1 or more of those objectives is in enemy's territory. They hold 3 objectives, 2 of which are in enemy territory, so that takes them from 10 to 13. I don't think any of the other cards were scored. No. Actually, no. Because of the champion being dead, they were denied a further 2 points. Wow. Either way, that does mean that the Sepulchral Guard win today. And that is going to do it for another Warhammer Underworlds for the channel. Very comfortable win there for the Skellymen. They do really well, actually. Like, I don't know how their old deck was, because I've only ever seen their new 2-player starter set deck. But it seems really good. You don't need to, as long as the Warden stays alive, you just need to keep activating him and moving people around. And it was just a nice thing that this particular board let him kind of just hide in the corner with guards around him. I'm pretty sure he activated every single time. I'm trying to think, was there an activation where someone other than the Warden activated for the guard? I don't think there was. I think he might have activated every single time. If not, then definitely like 9 out of 10. Or I guess it would be like 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, yeah. So, out of 12. But I guess that was the Wraithcreepers' fault for not going and trying to kill him. Left it a bit late. But he was buffing himself up. He was getting -1 die thrown against him. He's got 4 health on his inspired side. He's got an easy block to get. And he was basically supported every single time because he had at least a petitioner or a champion next to him. So it's not super easy to definitely get him, even if you're using the Murder Horse Ghosts. But yeah, they got a little unlucky. It could have been much closer. It could have been 13 to 11 if they just managed to plant Grodrick, literally just like that. And it would have been a much closer match, but still would have lost. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed. Please do remember to show your support. If you'd like to go above and beyond to support the channel in general, please do consider becoming a channel member, pressing that thanks button, or checking out the channel sponsor via the affiliate link. If you buy anything for yourself via that link, that means I get compensated as well. So we both get something out of it, which would be very nice. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I shall see you in the future for something else. Until then, ta-ta for now.